Hey everyone, welcome back. It is episode 8, and we are the Gut Girls. I'm Diana, and I have Angela here with me. If you want to say hello, Angela.
Hey everyone.
Today, we are going to take a deep dive into something a little bit different than we've been doing on the podcast. So, if you love to take notes, now is your time to grab you a pen and paper because hopefully you are going to get some great takeaways out of this podcast. We're going to talk about transformation and how to make it a lasting transformation. If you are a part of the Optimize Your Gut program right now, or maybe you're just out there listening and you're on some sort of healing journey, you know by now probably that healing isn't always linear. It's not easy. We have to really make some major changes a lot of times that can take us outside of our comfort zone. And so we want to talk a little bit about what we believe it takes to heal. And, we want to try to do this without judgment, but from experience and from love and from us genuinely wanting the best for you. And so let's be honest, there are lots of obstacles, right, Angela?
Yes.
We're talking, kids and business partners and financial things and fears and flare-ups and so many different things that can cause hiccups along the way. But we want to show you how it's possible, even with those hiccups along the way. And one of those things that we want to talk about is tracking and journaling and doing some of those things along the way, but ultimately not giving up hope, not giving up on this journey, because the journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And so we want to talk about that. So let's go ahead and just dive in really quick and talk about some of these myths. I'm going to call them myths of instant transformation. So tell us a little bit, Angela, about the healing part and what you see a lot of times with our clients with their healing journey.
Yeah, it's so interesting that I think, with what we do with the Optimize Your Gut program, we do a GI map stool test. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, once I get those results, I'll make it to the other side. And so then they get their results and they see kind of some of the underlying root causes. But then in their journey, one week they might be bloated. The next week they're like, oh, everything is back in check. I feel good. And then the next week after that, they're back to being bloated and tired. And so it's this misunderstanding that those results on the GI map don't just mean that from now on, it's going to be this blissful journey, right? It's the GI map is meant in our program to just be a guide. And really, guys, we're here to remind you, one of the myths is the body, we think of it as an onion. There's so many layers, especially if you've been on this journey for a long time, that every step is just peeling back a layer of the onion. And sometimes you peel back a layer and you get all these things that rise up to the surface, and that can be hard. And we like to meet you where you're at, but that takes time, right? So there's this, ebb and flow to healing, which is why, Diana, even after, if people listen to the episodes where we went through your story, having a community can be so helpful to remind you you're still making progress. You didn't fall behind. This is just what healing looks like. It's not linear. And it changes week to week based on what else is going on in your life.
Yeah. So just like you said, having that community and having maybe us to kind of help coach you through that, it's an accumulation. You're talking about the progress, but it's an accumulation of consistent actions time after time, but not perfection. It's just trying to make the connections to foods that you're eating, stressors in your life, really trying to consistently make those changes, knowing that there are going to be bumps in the way, knowing that, this transformation isn't linear. We don't have perfect diets, all of those kind of things. And but it's that it's the accumulation of the consistency, and that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Again, not a sprint, marathon. So, and our health is ongoing, right? Until we die. I mean, it's ever changing. We have different stressors that are going to come up and all kinds of things. So a lot of times I want to kind of jump a little bit to, you talk about the GI map test, and that is one of the tools that we use. I'm not going to say that that's like the number one thing that we use, because we don't believe that. We talk so much about how the transformation happens because of stress reduction, how it happens because of, the journaling and meal planning and prepping and all of those things. It all is kind of pulled together, but we do use the GI map test sort of as a guide, right? To see where some of those underlying stressors come in. And so a lot of times what happens is when we do see, and we coach some of our clients through these times, we see that they have, maybe a negative reaction, right? We just talked about it not being linear. So when they have these kind of reactions, sometimes they might kind of feel scared or feel like they've already failed. So they're not pushing through. And, we're 6 weeks in and we're like, they've already pumped the brakes, and we're like, wait, don't stop short, keep healing. So talk to us a little bit about those kind of reactions and what we see with our clients a lot of times.
Oh, absolutely. So, like we said, the GI map is just a guide. And it's interesting because let's say that we do a stool test and there's this massive parasite, right? Finding. Diana, your stool test had that on it for sure, which we're going to talk about in another episode. But, everyone jumps to like, what do I do to get rid of this parasite? And we teach them, a parasite lives in a host that provides a home for it, right? So, like, take your eyes off. This is what you're saying, but I'm taking it a little bit clinical here. Like, take your eyes off the parasite itself, and let's really reveal what's going on that's allowing that parasite to live in your body and make a home there. Like, what's the environment like in there? Let's focus on that. And so, sometimes we'll use lifestyle changes, diet changes. There's tons of supportive herbs out there that you can use to start making some of these shifts in what I would call the ecosystem or the environment of your gut. But yet we still have that parasite maybe living there, right? So it's this fine balance of you want to start shifting the environment, and as you do that, the parasite's not going to like it, right? So you might have some of these feelings or symptoms that come up that it's a little bit like, what's happening? All of a sudden, I might be feeling a little bit off of my normal. Maybe my bowel movements have suddenly changed. Maybe my energy levels have changed. Maybe I'm seeing a rash come up. And like you said, they'll pump the brakes and it's like, I'm done. I'm not getting better. In fact, I'm getting worse. And it's like, hey, let's back step this together and realize what's really going on under the surface that you can't see. Whatever you're hosting, it's not happy right now, right? And we can do this in a very slow manner. There's no rush. It's a marathon, like you said. So let's just pump the brakes, not throwing in the towel, but let's pump the brakes. And maybe at that point, whatever you're doing, whether it's from us or let's just say even a doctor's recommendation, right? Whatever you're trying to do to shift your ecosystem, what if we just supported maybe your detox system a little bit more, right? What if we worked on better hydration? What if we got you sweating during that time? What if we supported the liver with some natural things that, okay, now that shift isn't showing its face as extreme, with a rash or dizziness or fatigue, whatever it is. So learning that, once people wrap their head around this, then the fear can escape and they can continue to walk the journey with, us supporting them along the way.
Mm. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, the fear or what's happened in the past, the anxiety around some of those symptoms and stuff. Like, let's say somebody had, a severe rash or something, and they started taking some sort of new supplement or whatever, then, don't let that stop you. And don't let that don't let that, like you said, throw in the towel. So I love that you said that, because the mindset is such a huge part of the healing. And so we really try to, in the Optimize Your Gut program, especially, we really try to make sure that our clients can kind of wrap their mind around that a little bit, where there's so much that goes into making sure that you're sort of emotionally ready to make these healing changes, because if there's all these different stressors, I mean, we talked about it in my, my episode and my story from, weeks ago, that I had so many different stressors in my life, and it maybe wasn't the right time for me to, try this new fertility drug or whatever, because I had so much stress going on. So we try to help coach through that as well and make sure that that mindset is there. But in reality, there are real life barriers that happen. It's maybe a spouse not being on board, right? Like a husband or a wife that's like, I'm still going to go eat out every single meal, or my kids are really picky or whatever. So tell us a little bit. I want to pause for not only just some of those reactions and symptoms that can happen, but some of the real life barriers that we see a lot of our clients just can't kind of overcome sometimes, and we kind of help try to coach them through those.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfection. So let's say a husband's not on board. Let's say a wife's not on board. Whoever it is that's trying to do the healing journey, you know, meeting them where they're at is what we try to do. So if you're listening and this is you can still make progress. Think about a spouse who is just like, I'm not cooking and we're going to go out to eat. Let's say that there's this good, better, best situation, right? Like it might not be optimal where you're having this home cooked meal. If you're going out to eat, could you make a healthier decision? Right, to what you're choosing when you're eating out? And what does that look like? So maybe that looks like, we teach the hand diagram, which helps you kind of learn. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like how do I eat the right portion for my body type? So in our program, you learn that hand diagram. And so maybe you're just eating out and using your hand literally when you're eating out, saying like, okay, so I know that this standard American plate that I'm served at this restaurant is way too big for me. I'm going to use what I learned and I'm just going to apply it to eating the portion tonight. I might not be eating the right food, but I'm going to start with just portion control. And maybe that's where you're at, right? You're still eating out, but you're not overeating right now. You're just eating the right portion. Or maybe you can look up, we talk about in the program, like planning around eating out, which means, hey, maybe you're just looking up restaurants around you that have slightly better choices. Maybe they offer some cleaner choices if you need to watch gluten, or you need to watch dairy, or you need to watch oils, and just doing a little bit of research before your spouse wants to go out. And then you get to nudge them and be like, hey, I really wanted to try this new restaurant. Let's just try it out. Would you do that for me tonight? And so like you're making small, it could be, right, Diana, like as little as that. Maybe that's just where you are right now, right?
Yeah, I love that example too, because one of the things, another kind of hurdle that I was thinking about as you were talking, and we were talking about spouses maybe not being on board, it's also kids who are picky. So in the Optimize Your Gut program, we work with a lot of children. And I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 of them, the parents say the kids are picky. So even like you were just talking about, if you can't even get them to introduce, a new food or whatever, you can still make a lot of progress just cutting down those portion sizes, teaching them to sit still when they eat, sit upright, so we try to teach and coach all of those things alongside of, hey, try to introduce a food this way, or, if you're trying to do a supplement, try it this way or whatever. So a lot of our coaching is about that, where our kids may be picky. I mean, your kids eat sardines. So, I mean,
They do.
We can't talk about them. Angela started her kids at a very young age eating sardines and eating really a lot of the colors of the rainbow and understanding their bodies and things. But, I have teenagers, and now granted, when I kind of started on my healing journey, they were a little younger, but I was still working on myself. So I didn't really know how to like work them in. So now as they're teenagers and they're becoming, beautiful women, there are different stressors and things that kind of come into their life. And as far as even physically, but then even just stressors with friends and things, and what that looks like. And, there's always a party, and there's always pizza, and there's always drinks and Cokes and stuff. So learning the balance of life is what we love to do, kind of, and work through that together in the Optimize Your Gut program. And again, even with those kids, learning to be in my kids, learning that it's not really about perfection. It's, my pantry has some things that probably aren't great. My refrigerator does too, but the majority of what we're doing, we're trying to control and to really optimize our health using those things. So that, I feel like that almost kind of leads me a little bit into how I was successful in my healing journey, and how I encourage all of our clients that we coach that journaling is so important. I still have my journal from when I was calling you and working with you, right? So, and what was so great about that is I was journaling not only what I was eating, what supplements I was taking, but I was also journaling how I felt, what kind of reaction, how quick it happened. Did I have a headache? Did my face break out? So while I had already had my stool test results, and I was still journaling and still having these reactions, but continuing to push through, because you're like, hey, this is part of the journey. It's not perfect. It's not linear. And this is what you need to do to keep going. And so I kept journaling, so that when we talked on the phone and I had that one-on-one time with you where you could coach me through it, you're like, hey, Diana, listen, this is how we need to, I would make this adjustment this way. And it was like such minor things, or let's eliminate this for a short period of time. And so journaling really is one of the best tools. And I still tell everybody, I'm like, even if I just talk to them on a free 15, right? And a discovery call, a lot of times I'm like, listen, if you never hear anything from me again, journal, 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 because you can become your own doctor. So I'm going to turn it back over to you now, because I do want to hear, we have several like kind of cool stories where that journaling really kind of came into play with them. And it really didn't even kind of come back to a major thing on the stool test, right? So tell us a little bit about a couple of our clients and their healing journeys and how their journaling helped them.
Yeah, well, and that's a good reminder is like, so on these clients that we're about to talk about, they had the stool test results, right? But it wasn't even that necessarily got them to the next step. So there was a particular client I remember who, oh my gosh, she journaled everything, and it was fab. I mean, it excites us when these clients reach out to us and they're like, okay, I have my journal here. Can you help me? We're like, yes, because we know that that's data. Um, and so she was, eating her breakfast and was noticing this correlation after her breakfast of her symptoms, which was like gut pain and joint pain. And so we looked back at her journal, and it was, okay, I've been eating healthy, and I'm putting that in quotes because healthy is individual for everyone, but she was having eggs for breakfast. And at that point, it was like this pattern. Okay, every day I'm having 3 eggs, and there might have been something else with it, but I just saw this pattern of like 3 eggs. And so my question first was like, okay, if it's happening after eggs, clearly that in your journal is telling us something, right? Now, let's dive into just the eggs themselves. Is it the quantity of eggs that you're having in a meal? Is it the accumulation over the week? But I wouldn't even have been able to ask her that question had I not seen that, like, every day for breakfast I was having 3 eggs. So once I saw that, then we got to trial and error together, where I was like, hey, what I want you to do, first of all, don't change the 3 eggs. Keep it, but maybe you have it only 3 times a week. You know what I mean? Like, let's start there. And it was like, okay, I'm still having the symptoms. Okay. So that rules out, the 3 eggs themselves. It takes me that there's another issue. So now let's take the 3 eggs down to one, right? Like, so keep eggs in your diet, but when you have an egg, just have 1 egg at a time, and fill the other food with other, like, protein. Like, let's do maybe some sausage or a smoothie with that, like a protein smoothie. We talked about other options to fill the void of removing, 2 eggs. But man, she came back and she was like, that was it. I can still have eggs. And like, she was so excited, but it was like, it's the quantity. Like, for my body, 3 eggs was too much. And that was like, that didn't take a lab marker to figure out, right? That took her being all in, going all in, and journaling what she was eating and her symptoms back to back.
Yeah. It also didn't take a supplement for her to figure that out,
No,
right?
no.
I'm, you know, a lot of people, I feel like they rely so heavily on the supplement side. And yes, supplements do support deficiencies, or maybe they help break down, you know, overgrowths or, you know, some of those things. But that's not, I mean, the supplement is just that, it's only to supplement, right? So it's not, it's just there for to be supportive. And you know, we tell people all the time, we're like, they're like, oh, I think it's this supplement or it's this or whatever. And we're like, okay, wait, but let's back up and make sure, what did you have for breakfast? You know, did you, oh, well, I skipped breakfast and I actually didn't even eat dinner last night. And so we're like, ding, 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 right? This light bulb goes off and we're like, okay, so her blood sugar is dysregulated at this point. You know, she doesn't have proper protein. She's having these blood sugar crashes, and her gut can't repair. I mean, her body's kind of stressed out, right? Like, okay, I'm fasted, you know, and then, you know, a lot of times people will break their fast and they're like, well, I didn't eat at all. And so that was probably good. And then, you know, I ate a hot dog or something. And we're like, okay, yikes, you know, that's why. So that's just such a small, the supplements aren't magic, right? It's more about the routine. And we do try to get people to kind of create this routine for them, for themselves and for their families, where, you know, you're eating around the same time. I know it's not realistic, and I know some people are going to look at this and like roll their eyes maybe back, but you know, it is part of, you know, creating a routine is part of the healing. So if you're going through the Optimize Your Gut program or any journey that you're on, I would say create that routine, because your body really craves that, that consistency, right? So I that's where I kind of want to lead into with, healing based on kind of what season of life that you're in, and not worrying about so much about being perfect, right? Because we just talked about all the reasons that we have barriers, and we have, you know, these supplements that that aren't magic, and, you know, maybe a spouse or a family member or something that's not on board. So we have all these kind of reasons, or, you know, a stressful event, you're moving, or a death in the family, or whatever the case may be. It's like, how can we do that depending on what season that we're in? So I kind of want to talk a little bit about, and this is where that pen and paper kind of comes in even a little bit more, where it's like, how can we help, you know, maybe the busy mom with littles? Like, let's start there, and talk a little bit about how to kind of overcome some of those barriers.
This is such a great question. I actually just had a consult with a client today talking about, you know, in that season of life where it's like, I realize, you know, after going through your guys' program that I'm just eating the scraps from my kids' meals. That's every parent, right? We all have those seasons. And so if that's the season you're in, you're not alone. But it's the simplest thing, where I will remind those busy moms of, it doesn't have to look perfect, right? But if you wanted to stay on track, my biggest advice in that stage would be, don't skip a meal, right? Because your blood sugar, you're already stressed raising littles, your emotional, you know, capacity is slim to none, your sleep is depleted. So skipping meals in that stage of life is not going to help you at all. And so I can hear that mom already saying, well, I don't have food prepped. Okay, but that's what Diane and I are saying. Like, pick one thing that would actually, it's like, pick the one thing that would probably, what, kick you 10 steps ahead in life. And so for that mom, it's like, don't worry about anything except for meal prepping right now. And that doesn't mean you have to spend a whole Sunday. This is where, as a mom with littles, I would tell you it is worth hiring a babysitter if it is for 2 hours, and during that 2 hours you meal prep for the week, because I'm telling you, it would, the money you spend on that 2 hour babysitter would transport you tenfold in your health, and you being able to be a better mom because you're showing up for your kids, right? So mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you are going to gain from that 2 hours. If you don't have someone to come for 2 hours in meal prep, buy things that are already ready, meaning like, you have the privilege right now to go buy frozen grilled chicken. that is already pre-cut for you, but it's in your refrigerator and freezer. And so at least you can pull that out and heat it up and eat something rather than skip a meal. I mean, that takes no time at all. I was just saying how to a client today. One of our things now, this is what Diana and I laugh about because I'm a little bit more extreme, but like we'll buy from Costco the wild caught salmon patties. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, they take, I know exactly how long, 4 minutes on each side to heat up on a stove. That is my lunch probably 4 days out of the week. Oh, and then I can just add to it like some hummus or whatever it is, some fruit on the side of that. But 8 minutes, 4 minutes on each, I have 8 minutes. Even if my kid is throwing a tantrum, I have 8 minutes to cook me a salmon patty. So like it, moms, if that's where you are, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I will tell you the biggest advice is don't skip a meal. And if you're going to choose something, choose protein because it will hold your blood sugar. It will regulate you. Like, let's just do that. And that is a win in the season of life.
Yeah, and starting with protein there in the morning. I can't remember, you may have said that, but
Yeah.
starting with protein in the morning can really sort of set the how would you say that? It would sort of set
The tone for your circadian rhythm
there
and
you
your
go, the
nervous
word.
system. Yeah.
Yeah, the
And
tone for
so
the day. Yeah.
yeah, and that's a good point of like I said, wild caught salmon patties, but let's be realistic. It could be hard boiled eggs. And if you are the mom that doesn't even have time to hard boil your eggs, buy some hard boiled eggs. Like they're out there. I've seen them. Buy them, put them in your fridge. You'll have them. I've said to a lot of moms for lunches and dinners, what about a rotisserie chicken right now? Like if you're in that season, buy a rotisserie chicken. It's okay, but my goodness, is it gonna go far? And then what about like some I think of meatballs. There's some meatballs out there that have a lot of inflammatory foods in them. But I will say this, nowadays there's also, just look in the freezer. I mean, I know the cheapest grocery store here in town. I have found clean meatballs. Like if you look for them, I'm telling you, they're in every grocery store. Just a clean, prepared meatball. All you have to do is heat it up. Even if you were in this stage where you needed to have, let's say a protein powder, Diana, like a bone broth protein powder, where you're like, hey, I don't have time for lunch. My goodness, throw yourself a scoop in a blender bottle, some almond milk, cashew milk, heck, if you had to, just water, shake it, and at least drink that. Like, don't skip a meal. So those are some awesome protein that are just fast on the go that you can be getting in for that busy season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, so not only just with kids, but I mean, this works with busy entrepreneurs. This works with, if you work a 9 to 5 job at a bank and then you have teenagers that have sports to go to. I was at a track meet not too long ago, and the moms there were talking about how they were going to stop by and get fast food on the way home. And they asked if I stop and get fast food. And I was like, it's not that I've, never stopped, but I was like, no, at home, I have some taco meat already ready, some turkey taco meat. It's already ready, prepared for me. So it's just easier for me to do that. And so just like you were talking about for, taking those 2 hours and how that would help you emotionally, I can guarantee you it also helps financially, because you take hungry teenagers from a track meet to go eat at Chick-fil-A, and then yourself and maybe a friend or whatever. I mean, you're talking about spending 40, 50, sometimes $60 at Chick-fil-A only, right? And so, I mean, financially, I have this turkey meat already prepared. I paid what, $5, $10, $8 for it or something like that. And it's already prepared, and that's multiple meals that's available for me to use that. So, and when I want to kind of clarify too, when you look for those, you were using the word clean for those meatballs. What we're looking for there is we look at ingredients. So we turn the back of the package over. And sure, it may not just be absolutely perfect, right? But the goal of it is that it's actual food that you can read what the words are for those meatballs. So that's kind of what the goal is. And you were talking about the frozen chicken. So actually that's something that I do a lot in my house. But there are two frozen bags side by side at Kroger, and one of them talks about having rib meat and these additional glazes and all this other stuff. And the other one, if you turn it over and look at it, it's organic chicken breast. So I buy the organic chicken breast. Yes, it is going to be a little bit more expensive, but again, you're not going to Chick-fil-A. So it's still cheaper to do that with those frozen chicken breasts. And I mean, gosh, let me tell you, the easiest thing you can do is buy a bag of that chicken breast. You can throw it down in a crock pot. You can buy a Primal Kitchen seasoning. You can buy those pretty much anywhere now. You can get them on Thrive Market. You can get them at Publix, or I think even Kroger carries a lot of them now, and dump a thing of buffalo, Primal Kitchen buffalo. Again, if you look at their ingredients, they're all ingredients you can read, and you dump that on top of the crock pot and you hit low and it just cooks for 6 hours and you've got chicken, right? So there's so many simple things that we can do, and we're always kind of looking for the best option, but there's a good, there's a better, and there's a best, right? So Chick-fil-A and versus me going home, is it perfect? Did I like make me a bunch of like wonderful fibrous vegetables that night at 9 o'clock after a track meet? Probably not, but it was definitely a better choice than the Chick-fil-A. So tell me about a couple of things that you do maybe to make it easy for you. I already mentioned, like, I'll do the chicken. I think you do the rotisserie chicken. Of course, we make eggs a lot, but we do use smoothies sometimes. And if we make even a beef patty or something like that, then we'll make multiple of them so that we have them left over. And my teenagers will eat those left over. So tell me about a few of the things that y'all have as kind of your go-tos at your house, and how, especially what I'm looking for is the convenience of, when you do those, when you're busy and, clinic all day and you've had multiple different phone calls and stuff, like what y'all's go-to to make it quick and easy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, again, something that we have, and we're definitely Costco fans, where like we'll buy the salmon. They have a wild caught salmon that you buy in a bag, and it's got like 10 fillets in it. And if you don't like salmon, I have other options. But in my head, when I'm thinking of quick, literally, we have salmon from Costco, and we'll have pesto sauce. Like, I buy two things: bag of salmon, pesto. And we literally put the pesto on top of the salmon, put it in the oven. Salmon takes 15 minutes to cook. I mean, it is like the fastest thing. And there's our protein, like pesto flavored salmon. And it's so good and it's so fast. And this is where the good, better, best comes in. Like, if that's all I can get together, we talk about having, a protein, a fat, and a carb. Best would be that I have that salmon and I've got some, vegetables cooked down. So like maybe salmon with some asparagus, as my green side, and maybe under some rice for a carb, right? Like, best situation. Rice to me takes just a few minutes to cook. So let's go to, if I can't do best, what's better than not doing anything? Well, the salmon and the pesto take me 15 minutes. Rice takes, my gosh, 6-8 minutes to cook down. And if you need an instant rice, by all means, buy yourself an instant rice right now. It could be even faster. It could be a minute. But I mean, so then what if you just had salmon and rice? You know what I mean? Like a pesto covered salmon and rice, and you missed the vegetable tonight, like you said. It might happen, but that's still okay than eating Sonics, like you said, right? And then what if I just put the salmon and pesto and that's all I had? Okay, well, that still works. Like, do you see how it's like good, better, best? Like, you can have the full meal, or you could just have maybe the salmon and rice, or maybe just have the salmon. That's always an option. If you're a family that's like, we don't eat seafood, period, that's okay too. Honestly, we don't do a ton of lunch meats in our house. Like, we have them because we have little kid. I have a 5.5-year-old that if she's gonna eat a turkey ham, or a turkey cheese sandwich on Canyon Bakehouse bread, like that's some of the bread that we, in our swap list tell you, like Diana was saying, the ingredients, 10 ingredients or less. Okay, y'all, if you find the Canyon Bakehouse bread in the store, turn it over, look at the ingredients. There's not that many ingredients. It's a really healthy bread option. So for lunch, we do have some boar's head deli meat. I know that she'll do a canyon bake sandwich with a slice of cheese and turkey meat. Okay, that's better than sending her with a Lunchable, right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, the good, better, best situation applies to you, it applies to your kids, it applies to your spouse. And those are some of the things that, we do on the busy days that make it just so much easier for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think about carbs, for instance. We talked about protein, Diana. I think about a carb, okay, like a rice cake. Simplest ingredient. It's like one ingredient, right? What can you put on that rice cake? Our kids love them for a snack, which is better than having a cookie, right? I'm not saying our kids never have a cookie, but put some sun butter. My kids love sun butter, which is a healthy fat. If you're, it's different than peanut butter, it's less allergenic. I'll put that on a rice cake. And honestly, they're at the point now, you might not start here, but like Adeline will let me now sprinkle some hemp seeds on top of that. Just a little. I don't go heavy to where she's not going to like it, but I just put a little bit of hemp seeds on top of that and she will devour it. So then there I've got a rice cake that's my carb for her. Some sun butter is the healthy fat, and the hemp seeds sprinkled on top are a protein source. You can even dip your banana. You can take a banana, dip it in sun butter, and then dip it in hemp seeds. You know what I mean? Like, just think of these combinations when you guys are in a hurry. And as long as you have these little ingredients in your house, like stock up on a big bag of hemp seeds and put them in your pantry. Once you open them, maybe put your nuts or seeds in the fridge, but they'll last you a long time. And then you're always prepared, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say, so I see in our future that we need to talk a little bit more about, because this is a hot topic for a lot of our clients where they're like, okay, how do I eat? I'm tired of eating the same thing. So maybe an episode in our near future is going to be like all the things, where we kind of take the deep dive. But circling back, it all comes back to the journaling, to during the journey, making sure that we're staying on track as much as we possibly can, knowing that perfection is not going to happen, but we still try, even in the quickness of life and the busyness of life, we still are trying to make sure that protein is is number one, but also trying to add in those additional macronutrients, because that's what really keeps you satiated. That's what really keeps you, full, and adds the fiber and, kind of pulls it all together, right? Like having this pretty plate. So our point with this whole podcast really is, making sure that you're journaling. We don't want you to feel like everything has to be perfect. We definitely do not have it perfectly. And so we want to make sure that you're looking for the best option. You're journaling along the way, and making sure that even though you're in this busy season of life, giving yourself a little bit of grace, not totally throwing in the towel, but maybe we do kind of pump the brakes a little bit, right? And kind of figure out and work together with us as your coaches to kind of see how we can make some of those really subtle changes, if we need to, along the way, to make sure that we're kind of on the right journey. So as we close up a little bit, I kind of want to hear a little bit more about what you think about, just kind of what I was saying, the transformation and how that looks like just showing up, where it's progress, it's not perfection.
Yeah, I mean, remember, like we said in the beginning, this is a marathon. And so the beauty of this process is seeing, this is the beauty of the journaling too. It's not just making the progress, but reflecting back to where you were. So, like, even if you guys go back, if you have it, and listen to Diana's story, part 2, there's so many times when I'm like, oh gosh, Diana, to see where you were and to see where you are today, it actually, even in the midst of this day and age, Diana, when you're probably, even with your own girls, showing up like, oh my gosh, I could have done that so much better. But then to go back to your journal and see where you were, right? It reminds you that you are right where you need to be for this season of your life. And it's only going to keep getting better if you just keep staying consistent. So, transformation, the takeaway I want you to take from today, It's about consistency. You just need to make a consistent show up. It doesn't have to be the best show up. It just has to be that you show up. And then you're going to see what that show up transforms into over the length of this whole journey, right? And that's a beautiful gift in itself to reflect back and see.
Yeah. So as we kind of close up, we want to encourage you, when it gets uncomfortable, don't throw in the towel. We want you to keep going. Health is ongoing. And we want to be here for you as your coaches. And we want to remind you that, that staying connected with us, staying committed to the process, to yourself, to your family, to all those people that love you, you're worth it. So we don't want you to feel like you have to be perfect, but we really want you to stay the track, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. So we're going to stop here and wrap up this episode for now. Again, we have a lot more to come, so make sure you stay tuned. The Gut Girls podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. We are not acting as licensed medical professionals. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your health routine.